Welcome, everybody. Welcome. This is the Rig on Wheels show featuring MVT, Missoula Valley. And I am your host, Kameel E. Gaines, the founder and CEO of Rig on Wheels. And of course, we have our favorite VP of recruiting, Robert Pierson, right?
It's good to be here in Houston. I made it after all. It's exciting to be here. Honestly, there's a lot of down trees and power lines, and I think there's 2.7 million people right now that don't have power.
And I'm one of them. I am one of them. Yeah, we're without power. We probably won't have power for days. I mean, it's a lot. The worst part is I don't have Wi-Fi.
Well, my hotel I'm in tonight does have power, so right now the bid on eBay is $1,500 a night for the room.
We might have to take you up on that because you have Wi-Fi. That's the biggest issue for me is I don't have Wi-Fi. How can you live without Wi-Fi? I mean, like, it's pretty hard.
You could live in the office here.
Yes, I'm so happy. So yesterday the building wasn't open. Okay. But today I was here so early. I was just so excited just to be at work. I didn't know what to do. I was like, Wi-Fi, here I come.
Well, like we talked about yesterday, it's amazing the little things you start to appreciate when you don't have them.
It really is. It really is. So other than that, other than Wi-Fi, we are really going to bring you some other stuff. I promise you. We are going to talk about trucking and logistics, insights, hot jobs, driver tips, recruitment tips, industry news. But it literally is a lot of news that we're going to talk about, and just the movement of things like this happening and how does the industry deal with it?
Oh, yeah, it has definitely impacted a number of our drivers. I know in this city, as an example, there's a lot of distribution centers that are going to remain closed. They're projecting anywhere between 3 to 5 days at this point. And Houston has, as you land, you will see a ton of distribution centers that are all impacted by this at this moment. And this storm's not really over yet. It is here, but that storm has now gone up and starting to hit northern Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Indiana. Still high potential of tornadoes in a number of those states at this moment. So even though the hurricane part's over, we are not out of the woods.
Yeah, it just, and then let's talk about the domino effect. And I know that I am not going to hit all of it. And I want you all to chime in on LinkedIn, wherever you're watching us. With LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, wherever your heart desires. But let's discuss this, okay? I'm at work. I didn't bring my lunch. One, not just because I'm lazy, but I don't have any power at home. So it was not safe for me to eat and bring that tuna salad.
No.
Okay?
No.
Because I might die. And I would not be here to talk about my lack of Wi-Fi, okay? One. But I've only been trying to order DoorDash, and there you had to remind me when you got here that no restaurants are open because they don't have power.
Yep.
So that is not just inconveniencing me, but inconveniencing everybody. But let's talk about the logistics in it all.
Well,
so all of that food is spoiled.
Yeah, well, a lot of the food can go bad, and it reminds me from a trucking standpoint of being prepared when you're on the road. You know, we think about it in the wintertime a lot, getting stuck somewhere because it's cold. Being prepared in the truck is not just a wintertime activity, though. Theoretically, we have drivers down here that don't live in Houston, that potentially don't have a APU unit, or right now they're relying on finding food. I can tell you some places are open. I see that Lowe's right now is packed, but there's a Walmart just south of it that's closed because they don't have power.
No power.
And so one of the things as a driver is being prepared for the short term, just thinking of yourself solely.
Yeah.
The other part of this is we talk about airlines a lot where planes need to get in position for that next flight. Same thing happens in supply chain. So what happens in Houston impacts Dallas and Kansas City and all these other towns, because the truck that comes here drops off a load, picks up another load, and heads to one of those other markets, and so on and so on and so on. So when an event like this happens in Houston, property damage wise, and hopefully not many, but medical issue wise, it does affect the local area. But the actual supply chain of the country is also impacted by it over the next 2 to 3 weeks. items in DFW or El Paso or St. Louis that aren't there because that truck that at one point stopped in Houston didn't go to that end destination point. So there is a domino effect that hits these things. So when they talk about the economic impact that happens in one market, it has a domino effect. And it's how they end up talking about billions upon billions of dollars, because it's not just here in Houston, even though that's what we talk about.
So how long, optimistic, and I know I'm not always optimistic, but how long do you think before our supply chain gets back to supply chain normal?
When you get really granular, probably 2 to 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Now, with that said, we are very fortunate in this country, and we use it as a slogan in our industry that if you see a truck brought it, if you bought it, a truck brought it. In actuality, we have a very efficient supply chain compared to most countries in the world.
Right.
And so our hardship is nowhere near what another country might deal with in the same scenario. But for the next 2 to 3 days, you'll notice it. There'll be items that you won't find at Walmart that you would expect to. We think about things like toilet paper, which happened during the pandemic, but bottled water, milk, things like that definitely will get impacted by it. But overall, 2 to 3 weeks from now, this country's supply chain is very resilient, and the driver base is very resilient. That, trust me, this would be catastrophic in a place like Venezuela. You may feel it for 2-3 years down the road.
Yeah. You're right about that. And who we can compare things to is Mexico, because I have some friends down in Mexico and they were affected because, it hit first. So when I start seeing that things were starting to turn around for them yesterday or something like that, it gave me a little hope.
Yeah.
Because I know that that's how, we work. So I was like, okay, that means that, in a couple of days, my lights will be on because Maria's lights were on and Lisa's lights were on. So it worked out like that. So what I want to do is go to commercial and then come back and us kind of talk about the diesel and then talk about a few more things in the news and then jump back on this because it's just so much going on. But one good thing is, now I know I haven't been online that much, but I have not heard of any drivers having to be rescued this time.
Yeah, I've been very thankful for that.
Yeah.
I was at the airport here in Houston, though, and got into an interesting conversation because they saw the shirt. Mm-hmm. We got into the conversation on there, and they've, to my surprise, and I'm really happy to see this, I had a lot of people both on the plane and in the airport ask, how are drivers doing? Which I don't know that happened so much pre-COVID. So I was very encouraged. I hate that a hurricane would make that happen.
But I like that.
But I enjoyed that at an airport. That was one of the things that was very interesting is this morning I had anywhere between a dozen to 15 people ask, hey, how are drivers doing in this situation here? Are they okay? Everything from how do they get compensated? If you have an emergency, how do you get to them? Which we talked a few weeks ago back. That was extremely encouraging. And so there's a silver lining in this. That kind of motivated me this morning.
I like that. So we're going to get into those same questions. So the good people that ask those questions, I want to answer those on this podcast today because that's great. So if you could take us away to commercial and when we come back, we're going to get into our segment and talk about some news and some questions that came from the airport. Welcome back. So Pearson decided it's not a podcast or a show. It's a
Extravaganza.
It's an extravaganza. So welcome back to the extravaganza.
So we'll just need Kayla there to get all the stuff ready next week. So it should have extravaganza, maybe some pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
I don't think that's over the top.
It's not over the top. We can do it. BCB Live can do everything.
Absolutely.
Yes. Kayla has it. Okay, so let's definitely talk about the diesel.
Yep.
It's going up and up. I'm just trying to take all the money out of my Amazon pockets.
In the meantime, by the way, if you're watching this, make sure to share this with a friend. If you've not in the past here, be sure to like, subscribe so you get to watch this every week, as well as make sure to share it. So if you know anybody that's not currently in the job market at this moment, but maybe in the future, send this on to them. Let them know that they can watch this every week, Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The nice thing here, of course, is you have a number of clients. And so if you don't live in an area that hires MVT's hiring, you can do that. The other part of this I'm curious of, and part of the conversations we talked about at the airport, is there a trucking company that for whatever reason you've never worked for, you might not live in an area that they even hire in, that you like or that you follow or that you like their trucks, you like what they do? In the comment section, if you could leave a carrier that you'd like to work for but haven't, and maybe specifically, give some detail on why that is. We'll talk about that next week. If we have enough comments, then we can go ahead and kind of dissect that next week. So start commenting and leaving your thoughts on that. I'd be interested in particular what drivers think of that.
Yeah, that's a good one, because sometimes people like it, but they couldn't work for them because they don't live in the area.
Don't live in the area. Maybe they don't have the experience. I know a lot of people that have a favorite tanker company, but have no plans of going into tanker, don't want to haul it. But I like XYZ tanker company.
Yeah.
Fuel, unfortunately, and this is what I was trying to avoid here, has gone up the fourth week in a row. It went up 5.2 cents. We're now up to $3.86.5 per gallon. So that's gone up consistently. It went up in all regions, excluding the West Coast. Is the one spot where the West Coast is always high to begin with anyways. Yeah. But again, sitting 386 across the U.S. East Coast sitting there at 393. 410 up in New England. We got 386 in the lower Atlantic. Midwest sitting at 380. Gulf Coast still tends to be cheapest at 359. That's one of the things to watch though with a hurricane here, because a lot of the pipelines start here in Houston. So knock on wood, we'll see what it does the week after this, because that definitely may impact it. And again, West Coast is leading with expense, and of course California is always the most expensive at $4.95 a gallon.
Yeah, well, good thing they didn't go up.
Yeah. I'm concerned though. We'll see what it does the following week.
Yeah. Hopefully it at least stay steady.
You want to talk freight levels?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really good there. Up 10% on load availability. It went up 5 cents in dry van, held steady in reefer and in flatbed. 208 would be the spot market rate. If you remember last week, with the first week in week 25 of the year, we finally got to the point of 5 loads to 1 truck. As far as the ratio goes in dry van, it's now 5.6 to 1. Hopefully this is a prolonged surge, that we see that surge. We'll see. Houston may mess that up, so I would not look at week 27 that closely next week. Week 28 probably going to be more representative. But we got dry van at 208. We got flatbed at 243, 228 in reefer. Again, we've seen fairly consistent jumps over the last 4 weeks, so I'm encouraged by that. The spot market, if you play in the spot market, it definitely matters. But as companies continue to renegotiate with customers, that spot market does have a direct impact on contract freight. So it's going to be one of the things to keep an eye on. But we've gone up pretty consistently, and that it's good because it's matching what fuel's doing here. So hopefully people are surviving the fuel going up 4 weeks in a row because of it.
Yeah, and then but because the weather is kind of chucking up and going up, you think next week the rates are kind of going to be, who knows anyway.
I think it's going to be hard to read into it, because you're going to have fewer trucks on the road, but you're going to have fewer available loads potentially. So I would tell you that next week's week 27. I would not look at week
28.
28. It's going to be week 28. I would not look at week 28 as being a leading indicator. We'll talk about it next week, just purely out of morbid curiosity, probably. Week 29 is probably going to be more telling as far as how we're recovering from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now we get into those tornado states.
Yeah.
Even though I think we had a tornado here, I haven't really been able to watch the news or read a whole lot of things, but a lot of areas, like even around here, the trees are dug up from the roots.
It's one of the nice things though about the time that we live in is I was able to watch. I think it's KHOU is the local affiliate here that I was watching, where I can watch it from anywhere. So I was in Nashville, and everybody's watching the local news here because a ton of people have family here if they don't live here.
Yeah.
And so that access to information was phenomenal.
I'm glad you cleaned that up because right after I said the tree was dug up from the root, you said something nice, and I was like, "What just happened?" No, but I understand now. I got it. Yeah, it is. So
I will say this because you brought that up. All your family's safe.
Yes.
Nothing's happened there.
No, everything, all my family and friends here, everybody is safe and sound. It's just more of, I haven't heard anything disastrous. You know, what I will say is the mayor we have now, the previous mayors have done such a wonderful job in Houston of keeping us safe. Okay, we don't typically have any fatalities since I've been here the last 10 years, or very few. It's remarkable for a city this size, Houston land area. It's always destruction might be a building or something like that. Something can be replaced, cars, but it's not people.
Yeah.
So it's really good to live somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Where your mayors really understand how to do things, because I would not understand how to do anything like that. But they have it under control. So I don't ever have fear of anything when it comes to flooding or nothing here at all. And I definitely can say that it's more of a frustration. When are my lights going to come back on? And it's, Center Point, they can only work as fast as they can work. It's millions of people.
Yeah, like when we said there's 2.7 million people out of power,
Yeah.
that is not a 2-hour fix.
No,
is
it's not.
days.
That's 3 million people.
Yeah.
It's more of an irritant. Look at what I complained about. Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah.
And I was able to wait a day or so and come to an office and have Wi-Fi.
Well, I'm glad everybody's safe. That's a cool thing. It's more of an inconvenience.
It's an inconvenience. That's the word.
That is a big distinction. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, very much so. So I'm just grateful for it all. Most definitely, because everybody is like that, and everybody does not live in a city that has officials that know how to take care of large metropolitan cities.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we learned, I go back to Hurricane Katrina, and New Orleans was a mess. It was a disorganized cluster, and there was probably a lot of deaths and injuries that were easily avoidable. So I don't know the numbers and how many lives could have been saved, but when you're seeing helicopter scenes showing people stranded outside the Superdome, you're sitting there going, something's not right.
Because just to put it into perspective, I was here where Hurricane Harvey, and Harvey, we had more water.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the deaths.
Yeah.
We had a super fantastic mayor and handled it all. It just, when you have a mayor, and it was the mayor at the time, and he's not the mayor now, but have a mayor that reps where he comes from. He's from Houston, and he's proud of his neighborhood he comes from. It's just, I don't live in the area where we were able to vote him in as mayor and stuff like that, so I didn't get that privilege, whether I would have or wouldn't. But I'm just saying,
yeah, I'll generally point out, as much as we get into the conversation about D versus R, at the end of the day, that kind of goes away, especially in the time of an emergency.
Yes.
National, state, or local. At a certain point, how a politician responds to adversity,
Yes.
something that's unplanned, generally is how they leave their legacy in the long term.
And that's what I remember with him. That is what I remember, because you are able to compare literally what happened there to Katrina.
Yeah.
And the lives that was spared and all of that.
Night and day difference.
Night and day difference. And I'm just very thankful. So that's with that. Now, speaking of thankful, the folk that was in the airport, what were some of their questions?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So both on the plane as well as we had to wait for baggage, because not all the baggage handlers are currently at the airport at this moment. In fact, they may not be able to get to the airport. So it took a good hour to get my luggage today. Everyone was relatively calm. They kind of understood why. But
That's
we got
nice.
into a lot of conversations that started on the plane and went into the airport of, hey, so are you moving freight? And then how are your drivers doing? Like, how many drivers do you have here? Which for us, we have drivers that are based here, but we have drivers come in and out of this market continuously, including with one of the divisions we'll talk about today. So had, like I said, anywhere between a dozen and probably a little more than a dozen asking specifically, how do drivers deal with this? How do they communicate with the dispatcher, as an example? If a driver runs out of food, where can they go? It was kind of interesting. We're very fascinated with the concept of a truck stop. How a truck stop's different than Bucees was one of the odd things that came up. But
very different.
Very different. But specifically, how a driver eats when all the restaurants are closed. What a driver has in the truck to prepare for something like this. Like we talked about, we think about it at wintertime, but we don't think about it in the summertime, which you have just a high percentage chance in the summer to have something happen where you get stuck. And they talked a little bit about, from a security standpoint, which surprised me a little bit, is, hey, people do really wild things, especially if they've not had power for 3 days or they start running out of food. How do drivers stay safe in that scenario? So like I said, we had an hour to kill. God only knows where the conversation would have went beyond that. But it was really interesting to have just people that have nothing to do with trucking get very curious about how a driver lives in this type of environment, in this type of adversity. And like I said, I don't know that those conversations happened pre-COVID.
Well, I'm glad about awareness, because this is an industry that we have heroes that people need to understand that anything that comes to your table or you wear or whatever happened because of these heroes, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Truck drivers are the reasons why. So first of all, hint, hint, investors, we need truck stops that look like Bucees, okay? So let's start there. But how did you explain the difference between Bucees and the truck stops?
Yeah. So
other than the brisket.
For a motorist, a Bucees is a place you simply stop at, grab a couple things, and leave. A truck stop.
No. We don't stop at a Bucees and leave. It's about 45 minutes to an hour. They're closed. They're briskets. They're very good food. Have you been in a Bucees?
Several times, and I'm trying to avoid confessing my spending habits.
Okay.
What's happening
and
there.
The bathrooms are beautiful.
They are.
Okay.
And when you go into the bathrooms, they have artwork for sale.
That's what I'm about to say. It's artwork
overpriced, and I bought one of a cool looking bowl that I'm never going to admit what I paid for it.
Okay, because I'm about to say the artwork is beautiful.
It's one of the few things that Bucees and truck stops have in common, though, is you can spend money very, very quickly at both.
Okay.
But I will say, one of those is people going to Bucees is more of an event, where someone going to a truck stop, they probably go there once a day at least. And you can fuel and get out of these if you can control your wallet within about 5 minutes. If you fuel at a truck stop, it's at least 30 minutes. And that's hoping, depending, that you come at the right time of day. Because if you do it anywhere between 4 and 7 o'clock, it is not going to be 30 minutes. Additionally, it is taking advantage of everything from laundry facilities to getting a shower. It is much more a part of your working life, where you are highly dependent on a truck stop. if I'm going to go through an area that has a Bucees, I have an option of not going to the Bucees. As a trucker, as a professional on the road, that truck stop is an integral part of your day-to-day life. And that's the biggest difference between the two in my mind, is one's by choice and one is
a travel culture.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I get it. Yep. I totally get it. That's true. And it's a travel culture. You want to stop at Buc-ee's. You have to stop at a truck stop.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So that's hint, hint, investors. You want them to have to stop at your truck stop that looks like Buc-ee's.
Yeah, and I will always point out, it starts, most companies look at the cost of fuel. So when we go to Love's as an example, what the prices at the pump and what we pay are generally different from anywhere between 20 to 50 cents a gallon, depending on where we're going. And Love's is a really good partner. One of the things that we always look at, though, is also driver satisfaction. What can the driver get there? What are they being charged for? Right. Part of how a company looks, especially a company of size that has buying power, is not only what they get on diesel price, but specifically what we're able to save the driver. So as an example, we have a current program where we're trying to optimize our stops and be more strategic about where we stop. And it doesn't mean that we're stopping every 50 miles. If anything, last month we had 2,400 fewer stops to get fuel than we did the month before. And that was by design, because that tends to be a money pit for a driver.
Yeah.
So it's one of the things that we look at, both the driver satisfaction as well as our fuel economy. Because if the fewer times we can go in there, the less likely it is that a driver is going to get stuck having to spend money over and over and over again. We don't want to necessarily go to the truck stop. We have to go to the truck stop.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a really good point. So I'm glad you explained that one to us. And Lowe's is definitely one of the more popular truck stops and likable truck stops.
Yes.
So let's talk about that right quick. Okay. Now, what was another question that they had?
A lot of it got into driver safety. And we talk about that a lot here is, we talked about this, I think about 3-4 weeks ago, where the driver getting updates on weather. Hey, you're heading to bad weather, park the truck. We had a really good response from our drivers and our fleet managers back and forth with information. So we could clearly communicate to our customers, your load's not going to make it. We need to come up with alternative routing. We need to come up with alternative plans. We need to hold on to it. Most customers, and in particular, most of our customers have been with us for decades at this point, are pretty understanding of the fact that they want their freight to show up intact, not early. And so that was a lot of it around driver safety, of how we communicate. The other part of it came into the unexpected. And the big thing is I shared with them, is that really that communication between a fleet manager and a driver is important. It's allowing, especially with us, where we essentially have convoys. We have dozens of trucks going into a market every single day, is you take advantage of that first person that spots something. Hey, it's not up on the official websites yet, but there's flooding on this road, as an example. That is critical information to get distributed out to your fleet that's going to be going that way. It's one of the advantages that size of a company does make a benefit, because your one truck operation, 100% of their capacity is gone with one road closed down. Where when you have, 40 people going to the same market on the same road every day, that one person can be the alarm for the 39 others that are going to follow suit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Were there any other questions that jump out at you?
No. And some are morbid curiosity there that I'm not going to repeat, but you never know at a airport, when someone's got an hour of time to kill, the random subjects you're going to talk about. But I like I said, I left the airport kind of excited and motivated and pumped up.
Yeah, I think the COVID made people more aware. So that is the big thing. I like the fact that they're talking about the industry.
Yep.
Either way, they're talking about
it. And as we continue to need a younger demographic get into our industry, both men, women, all races and ages, that discussion helps with that open dialogue about it. I hear people talk about pilots and doctors and lawyers. We need to have that same type of just general discussion going on for a lot of the blue collar professions, welders, plumbers, electricians, and professional truck drivers on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, that's a good segue with us talking about the different diversity and gender diversity, generational diversity is actually what we were talking about, and talking about the heroes of the role. So Faces of the Role talks about all your different diversity. So your gender, ethnicity, generational diversity is what we were talking about. And for an example, so this is a calendar that is particularly for us. I'm looking, trying to cheat here and go right to July. So this is July, and this is our Independence Month. But more importantly, it is our Operation Safe Week. So that is notated here. And if you notice that this calendar has the holidays that are specific for truckers, okay? So yes, it has other holidays in it, but it really has the holidays that are specific for truckers. So you can take pride in the fact that this calendar is for you. And the 2025 calendar is already in the works and being designed and everything already. And on the back of it, it talks about exclusivity is our fuel, diversity is our engine, and unity is our destination. And you can go directly to the Rig on Wheels website, go to the Road store and purchase it. Okay, so Kayla, if you can go ahead and go to a commercial, and when we come back, we would be able to talk about the hot jobs.
Hello, everybody. I'm DeAnthony Davis. I'm a truck driver from Cleveland, Texas. I've been driving for 3.5 years now. I recently saw a podcast with Rig on Wheels on YouTube. I gave them a call. They was fast. They was efficient. They helped me out. I didn't really want to be over the road, so they got me a good regional job. And hey, you should give them a call.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. So we got a couple of hot jobs, and I'm trying to squeeze some information out of Pierson that he doesn't want to tell me, but we're going to get some information this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Kayla, let's get started with Division 210. This would be our Southwest Regional. Currently looking for drivers out of Phoenix, Albuquerque, San Antonio, Laredo, and the surrounding areas. Honestly, most attractive running lanes in the country in terms of avoiding weather. These are the markets that you're going to be less likely to get snow, sleet, rain, hail, all that other good stuff. Doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. Don't do a lot of mountain driving. Run in California, Arizona, New Mexico, and southwestern Texas, all the way down along the border. Of course, we rely heavily out of Texas on cross-border freight. We do about 500 loads a day out of Nuevo Laredo, and El Paso and Juarez, and so that relies there. Tesla and TJ Maxx are our big accounts on this, extremely consistent between $1,200 to $1,400 a week. Weekly home time, all no touch, vast majority is drop and hook, and overwhelmingly 95 to 99% of the freight that we run in this division on a weekly basis is direct customer freight, so not relying on spot markets, but literally direct customer freight, which makes a big difference in terms of that consistency. Let's do, honestly, my favorite division, 329. 329 is Texas Regionals. I got some weird sports update on my phone. Sorry about that.
That was a good, since that was your favorite.
Yo,
And it's
absolutely.
Texas.
Absolutely. Division 329, looking for drivers out of the greater Houston area, DFW, San Antonio, and Laredo, Texas. The nice thing here is you get to stay close to home. You're never more than a day away from the house. Generally, for Division 329 is going to do orientation out of Laredo, Texas. We do take teams on this, not just solo drivers. Teams average anywhere between $3,600 to $4,000 a week, and we'll run out to West Texas, out to El Paso. But our solo drivers, generally, if you have more than a year of experience, you're going to be around $1,800 a week. If you have less than a year of experience, you're going to be closer to about that $1,200 to $1,300 range. Again, weekly home time, a lot of I-45, I-35, I-10, running that Texas Triangle, going up down I-35 all the way to Laredo. We will go into southwestern Louisiana and southern Oklahoma from time to time as well on that, as well as the Panhandle of Texas. But with that said, again, a lot of good customers on this. We have IKEA, the Container Store, Starbucks, and a bunch of Lowe's that goes into this. That really attractive division, extremely consistent, nice running area. And again, this is where I point to what happened in Houston this past day here with the hurricane. You're not far from home. So we had a lot of drivers that wanted to be in Houston because if a hurricane's coming, I want to be with my family. Yeah. This division made that very easy to get that done. So we did have trucks coming into Houston so people could be home. On the flip side, we had people that lived in other market going, I need freight to get out of town. And we had drivers that we acquiesced to that as well. This division makes that really, really easy. There's other life circumstances. You may have a delivery that happened before the delivery date. A spouse gets sick. All the things that could happen realistically in your life. This division allows you that flexibility that when you need to get home and you need to get home in a hurry, it's readily available to you and you're not 1,500 miles away from home.
Yeah, that is, yes. I thought about that when you said need to get out. We always talk about drivers needing to get back home, but there are emergencies that can happen in the state and you need freight to get out.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's where direct customers help, because I can tell you the spot market, the hurricane hit Monday, late Sunday night. Not a lot of spot market rates that you can pick up over the weekend. That's where the direct customer freight and having an allocation of filled trailers ready to get out of the market became very valuable. Now, granted, if we didn't have the freight, we're going to get people where they need to get to.
Right, absolutely.
But that freight and that flexibility in freight makes it much easier to do that.
But you put something on my mind. I was sitting here and I was thinking, I was like, we never really talk about that, really. You talk about having to get back home, but not having to really get out because something is going on. So let me really get a jump start and get out of here. I know something is about to happen or something is happening right now.
Yep. It's the nice thing here, and this is where that drop and hook has an extra type of value, is that ability and that pre-plan. We generally pre-plan about 2 to 3 days in advance. It's why us being on time is so important. Because if we're late on one load, we're technically late on 3 loads. Yeah. But the advantage of that pre-planning and why you want it is essentially it makes it much easier to go, hey, I'm sending you here because that's going to lead to this. That's going to lead to this. It gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of options, plan B, plan C, to where you have a integrated network of regular routes, or what we call engineered lanes, that allow that flexibility to get people in and out of a market rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I will share this, and we talked about these two divisions. I will say that you're going to want to tune in over the next 2 to 3 weeks here. We're going to have a dedicated opportunity opening up out of Columbus, Ohio. We generally have not operated in Ohio, but we have a dedicated opportunity coming soon. It's official. We signed the paperwork yesterday with the customer, so everything's good to go on that. I alluded to it last week. I can say it's official. It's coming in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We'll have a dedicated opportunity. What I can tell you, it's going to be really good pay. It's going to be home every night or every other night at the latest. It's all going to be no touch. Vast majority is going to be drop and hook. And so if you know somebody that either you live in Columbus, Ohio, or you know anybody that lives in Columbus, Ohio, that's an active truck driver with at least 6 months of verifiable experience in the last year or a year in the last 3 years, we definitely want to have that conversation. So be tuning into this show or extravaganza, if you will. About 2 to 3 weeks from now, we're going to have all the details. You're going to want to call in immediately. The position will go quick. We're going to have about 32 openings on that dedicated opportunity. And so you're going to want to watch this so you can get first dibs on those jobs.
I was just going to ask, how many opportunities did we need? Because yes, we do.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, by the way, we do have.
They will go quick though. So you got to act. So that phone number, Kayla, if you could put it on the screen, because that's going to be the number they're going to need to call at 281-968-3100. That's 281-968-3100. Or of course, you can always go to rigonwheels.com, which is an easy to navigate website. You can find everything that you want there, from the hottest jobs, the Face of the Road calendar, and a whole bunch of other information as well.
And so when did you say that this was going to come?
About 2 to 3 weeks from now.
Okay.
So you're going to want to listen to it. You're going to want to tune in every Tuesday at 3 o'clock Central Time, 2 o'clock Mountain Time. Or, Ohio would be Eastern Time. So 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yes, Ohio is Eastern Time. So we're excited about that. So there'll be about 75 miles of Columbus.
About 50. About 50.
Okay.
Especially with that type of home time. Like I said, it's going to be home either every day or every other day. So
oh, wait. I didn't hear that part.
Yeah. So it's going to be home either daily or every other day. So 1 to 2 days out.
I was just making sure Raven heard that.
Oh, absolutely. 1 to 2 days out. It's going to be really good, consistent pay. We'll have all the details, though, and we'll get into the minutia that if it's your future job, you want to know about.
Okay. Well, I'm more than excited.
But if they don't tune in, they won't know about it, and it'll be too late.
It really would be 30 jobs.
Because it won't be something that we have listed on our website. It won't be something that you can do just a random Google search for. You literally have to tune in to watch this and see it. And it's coming in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, and it's only 30.
Only 32.
Oh,
I'll be exact, 32.
32. Okay. Sounds good. Anything else you want to tell us? Anything about Houston?
I wish, because I love giving good news. We got more coming, though. We got more coming.
Okay. I was just trying to squeeze anything else.
Oh, I know. The next thing you know, I'm going to be talking about that we're giving away a truck or something. Oh, wait, that's going to be in about another segment.
Well, it's funny that you say. No, but what we do want to do is go to another commercial. If you can definitely play the commercial with Carlos, and we want to talk about the car giveaway and go from there.
Mi nombre es Carlos Vázquez, tengo trabajando 3 años aproximadamente y somos B1 y andamos en territorio de Estados Unidos. Lo que me gusta de MVT es que tiene buenos viajes, buenos camiones y muy buenas millas. Mi comunicación con el despacho es muy buena y todo eso, y siempre están a la orden del día. ¿Qué pienso del equipo de los camiones? Pues que están muy bien y les dan sus mantenimientos, sus PO y todo lo demás, alineación y balanceo, todo, cambio de llantas y excelente servicio. La compañía cada trimestre regala un auto para los empleadores. Me motiva pues a crecer más como persona y pues, para dar el 100, como dicen, para la compañía.
Welcome back. I was here just trying to see if I can, pay him off, give him a few dollars or whatever, and see what I can do here. But he wouldn't budge. He was just only trying to give me Columbus, Ohio. That's it.
Well, it felt weird. She kept trying to hand me the pen and go, now write down a cent per mile that sounds right.
Right. Okay, so tell us all of the ins and outs when it comes to the winning the car. Yeah,
we take fuel seriously. The number one reason why we get about 3 miles per gallon better than the rest of the industry is driver behavioral trends. We look at equipment, we look at running lanes, we look at a number of other factors, but by far our best fuel economy comes from what our professionals on the road do. And so what we do here is a couple of things. We have a fuel efficiency bonus that everybody's eligible for, ranging between 1 to 4 cents per mile retroactively. That's figured on a monthly basis. So everybody has a chance at that opportunity. Once you get above 9, and our average is 9.5, more than 50% of people are getting some kind of bonus on MPGs in terms of that 1 to 4 cents. With that said, we also want to really make sure to have the folks that lead the way stand out. And so whoever gets the best fuel economy in a specific quarter will get a brand new car. Normally it's a 2023 Nissan Sonata. Yeah, because Sinatra is not a car. I don't know why I keep doing that. With that said, it's a new car. It's generally going to have less than 100 miles on it. It's brand spanking new. Nobody else has been in the thing, having a joyride. We do that every single quarter. The next time we'll do it is August 21st, is when our next driver appreciation event is in Nashville, and Denver, Laredo, Hutchins, Texas, and El Paso. But every division's eligible for it. Whoever gets the best fuel economy gets it. The last quarter, it was a gentleman named Anthony Rios that averaged 12.6 miles a gallon. We've had people with 20 years experience. We've had people that were 9 months into the industry with us and ended up winning the brand new car. So we do that. If a team gets it, we do the cash value and split it between the team, but that's always available. And then whoever has the best fuel economy for the year ends up getting $25,000. We want you to get it. We want you to be recognized for going above and beyond. We work closely with our drivers to get them to improve on their fuel economy. There's literally a department called Driver Services within our company that will work with you. Their job is to work with you on your career development path, as well as better fuel economy, better safe operations of the vehicle, and basically improving on what you do and being that true professional on the road. Additionally, your fleet manager wants that because the fleet manager has a fiduciary interest in you making more money, because part of their bonus structure is literally based off your financial success, and B, they want bragging rights. The fleet managers are passionate about it. We have one fleet manager in particular that will go unnamed at this point, but brags on a weekly basis that he has the most drivers under his division that have the MPG bonus. So it's something that fleet managers also take a lot of pride in, is having somebody that's on your board that ends up getting that as a high honor for not just the driver, but for the fleet manager and the overall operational team.
Let's talk about that leaderboard, that
Yep.
they're able to actually come in and see themselves on the leaderboard.
So you always have visibility on where you rank versus your peers. So both in your in-cab communication system, scientific platform, basically will show where you are versus your peers. About a week into the quarter, you will start saying, hey, I'm 84th out of the 1,900 drivers that we have. Additionally, one of the popular spots for us in all of our terminals, but in El Paso, it's right by our grill that we have at the terminal. You're able to go in and physically see it. It's printed every Monday, and you can see where you are versus your peers the previous quarter and where you are in the present quarter. Very popular spot. A lot of trash talk takes place at the board, but ends up being very popular, and we track that for you so you know where you are. And the nice thing is, if you're somewhere in the middle, we've had people in the middle that 2 quarters later are winning the car. So don't assume that, I'm at 9, somebody's got 12.6, I got no chance at this. Just means that there has to be some adjustments in between our relationship with Penske, our department that focuses on that, as well as your fleet manager. We'll lay out a game plan for your success. We want you to go after that car.
I love that. Actually, I love that. I think this is one of the best parts of the show that I really like. Kayla, I'm sorry. I really wasn't ignoring you. So we have a question on LinkedIn from Arjun. Good afternoon. What are drivers looking for in companies to attract and retain? What are drivers looking for in companies to attract and retain them?
Yeah, I can tell you, I think, look, at the end of the day, we all got bills to pay. So I don't ever downplay money. Money is important. At the end of the day, if you're a grown adult, unless you're doing this as a hobby, which this could be an expensive hobby if you're just doing it for fun. I would rank it 1 through 3. I'm going to first say schedule. And schedule does not necessarily mean I work 8 to 5 and I come home like a banker's hours. Schedule means predictable home time, knowing when you're going to be home, being home long enough to have a life outside the truck, and having a set schedule is a really big thing to a majority of drivers that I talk to on a weekly basis. So I put schedule first. Second part gets into equipment, and the second part on equipment, I don't mean just does the truck look new and flashy. It's like any job. Do you have the resources to be successful at the job that you have? So be it a truck driver or any other position, if you're an electrician, do you have a toolbox that is particularly laid out for an electrician? Truck driver is the exact same way. Do I have a clean truck that I can live comfortably in and get the 10-hour break and the 8 hours of sleep that I need to operate safely? Do I have equipment that can get up a hill, that can pull when I'm going 80,000 miles down the road? Do I have the equipment that can get up a hill without me basically having the truck go through labor to do it? Do I have the trailer pool that is reliable and not going to be an issue every time I come up on a trailer and it's going to have worn tires? So that equipment ends up becoming really important. And you will see that a driver in a phone call may not mention it, but if you go from one company to the next, you'll see a lot of turnover. And when you really dig into it, it's going to be equipment related of what was the straw that broke the camel's back. Lastly, the other part I'm going to say comes down to respect. And sometimes that's a broad term, but everybody wants to have purpose and feel like there's collaboration and they're part of a team. It doesn't matter if you're the driver. It doesn't matter if you're a guard shack attendant. It doesn't matter if you're the VP of HR. We all want to feel like we have a purpose, a common goal, and that the person that I'm interacting with, that's my coworker, respects my opinion, respects my views, likes the fact that I'm there. I'm not viewed as a pariah, a nuisance, or as a resource. When companies look at drivers as a resource or a tool to get freight from point A to point B, generally speaking, that driver is not going to stay because they don't have much purpose. They literally feel that they have the same value as that truck. And it's a horrible environment to work in.
And the next question he said is basically what you said is the last thing is what attracts a driver to stay with the company long term. And what you said, I think, summed it up. And what I'm about to say is the culture of the company. So the driver could be wonderful, the company could be wonderful, but if those two people or entities don't match, then it won't be a long-term success. And that's just period. I was talking to another company and they were basically talking about where they went to find drivers and the fact that they need drivers to stay out 4 to 5 weeks, and the drivers they end up quitting because the drivers want to stay out 2 to 3 weeks, and their requirements were very strict, and the background and everything was very strict. And all of those check boxes always matched up. The driver can be a terrific driver. That was not a problem. However, if that driver doesn't match the culture of the company, it won't work. So if the scheduling, that's one thing. So what I feel to kind of something that you were saying when you said schedule, and it jogged my memory with talking to this one company. What I feel that a lot, thinking in my third party brain, I feel that a lot of companies make this mistake. Even if you need a driver to stay out 4 to 5 weeks, that's a long time. However, there are drivers that want to stay out 5 to 6 weeks. That's what they want to do. They don't want to stay out 2 to 3 weeks. So if you are targeting and you know your niche driver that you're looking for is 4 to 5 weeks, that's what you go after, is the driver that wants to stay out 5 weeks.
Yep.
Don't go after the driver that wants to stay out 2 to 3 weeks. So you listen on the phone for the things that they're not saying. So when you're on the phone with them and you tell them that this job, that they need to stay out 5 weeks, and they kind of do a sigh, that is a driver that you don't want. It doesn't mean that he's a bad driver. He needs to go to a company that works for him because he's not going to retain. And then his record as far as being a quality driver, because now he's going to a company that he's not going to stay at, and then you're going to have a turnover and need all of these thousands of dollars to replace this driver, and it's going to be an ongoing situation when you did not have to hire this person in the first place because he's not your ideal driver.
And as we've talked about, it's the difference between recruiting and capacity development. Mm-hmm. Recruiting is putting a butt in the seat, and I get it. We have carriers that there's still carriers out there that have a ungodly amount of trucks sitting on the fence.
Yeah.
And they're desperate, and they hire like they're desperate.
Yeah. And
it sets the driver up because it's a never-ending cycle. You can't dig yourself out of that cycle Capacity development is placing the right driver from the right location in the right job. It's best for the driver, it's best for the carrier. In a lot of ways, with a group like Rig on Wheels, it's best for them too, because they're going to ultimately get much more driver referrals down the road because they're satisfied with the job that they went into. The key piece is understanding is the driver going to meet the operational needs of the company that they're going into? And the same thing's vice versa. Is the carrier going to provide the needs that the driver's truly after? And that's where that conversation with the recruiter, that first conversation, if everybody's aligned on that, that conversation may be up to 15 minutes. It's not a 2-minute conversation. It is a detailed discussion of, hey, what are you doing right now? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What do you want to do? Where do you envision yourself as a driver 5 years from now? When was the last time you had a recruiter that wasn't talking about a week later when their orientation started, but literally was saying, what do you want to do 5 years from now? That discussion becomes really important because you don't want to think about the next 90 days. If you think about the next 90 days, if you're a professional driver and you have a pretty decent, stable work history, you'll find a job. That's not the hard part. If you're a good driver, you really want to have that career discussion. Why is it that I'd go to this carrier and be there 5 years later? That turns into a very different conversation with the recruiter compared to when's your next orientation class?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, Arjun, thank you so much for those couple of questions. And I definitely want more people to chime in. Meryl, thank you for shouting out MVT. Meryl said MVT is the best. I definitely agree. MVT is one of the best to have ever done it, especially with Pierson as the VP. I am a little biased, but I definitely want to say that. And any parting words?
I'm glad it's not just my mother saying it, so that means a lot. That's a big deal.
Yes.
Everybody stay safe. We had what happened in Houston here reminds us that stay safe and make sure that your loved ones know that you care.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody definitely stay safe. And we'll see you again next week, Tuesday at 3:00 Central Standard, 4:00 Eastern, since we're looking at that Columbus, Ohio, and 2:00 Hostway's time.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Talk to you all and see you all next week, Tuesday. Bye-bye.